I suppose the direction of the show came from a need to shift from being like this angry young provocateur throwing stones to something more intimate, and a lot of the work has gone down that path. And it's more, my concerns are more about my family rather than about what the world is doing out there. It's obviously interrelated and the work will reflect that. But the sculptures, especially the three-dimensional stuff, is not about, the sculptures aren't the perpetrators anymore mostly, they're actually people. So there's a kind of a shift in that. I wanted to shift the tone of this body of work to something a little less aggressive, a little less shouty, and kind of more intimate. And the discovery of marble in that process was sort of quite profound in how it's affected how my work looks like and what it feels like, and the intimacy it kind of gives to the round forms of my characters. And I was surprised at that. I knew something would shift and something would happen, but I was surprised how especially the marble works have dovetailed my intention. I'd made a whole lot of models for my sculptures, and they are normally, the originals are normally light grey. And I had a few of these in my studio, and Sanel, my wife, came from next door and just to kind of have a chat and a cup of coffee, and she immediately said, "Brett, you should try these in stone." I'd been talking about using sort of aluminium or casting them in a lighter material and a lighter patina. I wanted to shift from the dark, fairly ominous and somber dark patina, but I didn't know how, and that kind of sparked something. And then Otto du Plessis runs Bronze Age, his studio is next door to me. He also came in for a visit, and later the same night he texted me and said, "Brett, marble." And it absolutely made sense. And so I went and I decided on Carrara C, which is that marble, and that's that's your standard classic Carrara marble. The materials that I use in most of my wall works, apart from the paintings and the metal letters, is made from perspex, which I either have laser cut, and the line drawings I actually route into the black or red perspex and then gold leaf it and give it a kind of a matte, almost slate-like finish. And perspex is something I've been playing with for ages. I used to make lights, sort of objects out of perspex, and offcuts I started making my artwork. And then actually the beginning of the perspex, my use of perspex are those little Zulu ears that are made up of sort of found bits of perspex, the ear plugs. So that's 100 years ago I kind of started working with perspex, but it's now sort of become part of the language which I use. Yeah, I've always made animals in my art since I can remember, since art school, since undergrad, postgrad. And there's a kind of there's an access point for an audience. There's a familiarity often, and what I hope to do in them is to create some kind of almost archetypal presence of an idea and of a form, and really pare down so that it's kind of, it breathes the kind of soul of a living entity, but of an idea as well, if that doesn't sound too pretentious. And so the formal things that I would look at would be like the Macondo masks, the Baule sculptures, the Cologne sculptures of colonial figures, the Japanese Nzuka little sculptures of animals. So those would be the formal sort of influences. So it would be lowbrow and highbrow references. So it would be like the Dumbo Disney animation. It would be children's books from the 50s. It would be sort of objects and funny art objects, sort of flotsam and jetsam. It would be the Asian vinyl toys that you get now as well. But most of the things that resonate with me and actually seem to resonate sort of with others is the kind of a nostalgia in a sense of an old worldly thing. It's almost I've only come to realize this recently, that I'm always trying to make some of these objects Like when you hear a song and you miss people that you don't know, you know, that weird familiarity, an archetypal presence of an idea and an emotion, I suppose. Accompanying the show, I put a book together with Ben Johnson, who's a fabulous designer based in Cape Town. And I suppose it's a kind of a fight against what we've had to go through with COVID, where everything is out there on screens and that. I like books. I like opening pages. And so it was a little bit of a pushback because I enjoy books. And also I'm wanting to kind of house this as a memory for myself and my friends once the show comes down.